you guys. Look, this is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself. We have an indictment. We have the information that the government wants to come after me on, and I'm going to comply. I've been complying throughout this entire process. I have no desire not to comply at this point. They've been gracious in there. Now I'm going to have to go and fight to defend myself. The reality is it's a witch hunt, because it makes no sense that in 4 months, 5 months, I'm indicted. You have Joe Biden's entire family receiving deposits from nine family members receiving money from foreign destinations into their bank accounts. It's been years of exposing. A lot of you here have reported on them, and yet no investigation is launched into them. I'm gonna fight. I'm getting back to that. I'm gonna fight my battle. I'm gonna deliver. I'm gonna fight the witch hunt. I'm gonna take care of clearing my name, and I look forward to doing that.
George Santos is pulling a really bad impression of Donald Trump. It's a witch hunt, and I'm gonna fight back. You know, this is one of those few politicians where you'll see them outright say something against what it is they're being charged with, and you kind of get some boos even from the crowd there. So in case you guys didn't realize it, now he's facing 13 different charges, which we'll get into more details of, but there's a little bit more.
Yeah, we're just hearing, John, that George Santos is in custody and this indictment has been unsealed. I want to give you some quick details as we're going through the paperwork. He is charged on a 13-count indictment. According to those court documents, the charges include 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making materially false statements to the House of Representatives. Again, we're just getting this indictment. It has just been unsealed. We're hearing that Santos is inside the federal courthouse here behind me, and he has been arrested on these charges. And of course, we're learning that he will see a judge later today, very likely on these charges. But
this is getting pretty serious. Here's a few more of the details that they were pointing out there. Santos is only 34 years old, by the way. And they released him on a $500,000 bond after this whole arraignment. So he's turned himself to these authorities in Long Island. He's facing these fraud, money laundering, and theft of public funds. 20 years is what he could be seeing really fast, the theft of these public funds. Prosecutors said that Santos induced supporters to donate to a company under the false pretense, among many other things he trick people into, that the money would be used to support his campaign. Instead, he used the money for personal expenses, designer clothes, and his credit card and car payments. Very nice, George. But still, he went through this entire process. They've caught up with him, and he's gonna defend himself against this witch hunt. There's absolutely no evidence, like there always is no evidence right before all the evidence is right in front of everyone's faces. He's trying to figure out why, after only 4 months, he's now been arrested and charged. I'm trying to figure out why it didn't happen after 1 month. Because everyone already knew. A little bit more on this. Actually, before we go to more of that, Adrian, I feel like you have a couple thoughts.
Well, I just really love the level of indignance that he showed in having to answer those questions or having to stand up there and speak about why he is there in front of the courthouse. It's really astonishing. I want his level of confidence to be able to really just go with these lies and be so bold about it. Like he says these things with his chest, and then for this to come down in terms of this 13-count indictment, for him to act completely shocked and act like I cannot believe this is happening. It's like, really? It's just like Oscar Academy Award winning performance.
Well, the reason he can't believe it is because usually these politicians circle the wagons for each other and make sure that they don't get caught up, which one Kevin McCarthy tried to do a few months ago. Let's watch.
Now, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who's been pretty quiet so far, finally commented about this today, telling Fox that Santos will continue to serve, at least for now.
The voters are the power. The voters made the decision, and he has a right to serve. If there is something that rises to the occasion that he did something wrong, then we'll deal with that at that time.
You guys remember that? That was back when his biography was being pulled apart and people realized how much he was lying about who he is, down to his name, bro. So Kevin McCarthy, I suppose he's a man of his word. If something comes down, if there's some kind of charges, we'll talk about it then. That day is today, Kevin. What do you have to say?
No. Yes.
Are you going to continue to stand by George Santos now that he's been indicted on federal charges?
I'm not going to avoid your question, but as you know, I've been at the White House. I haven't seen the indictment, but as you know, with George Santos, I did not put him on any committees. For those like Senator Menendez, who was indicted and went to trial, he was still able to vote, and others. I believe he's a chairman of a committee today. In America, we'll just follow the same pattern we always have, right? If a person is indicted, they're not on committees, they have the right to vote, but they have to go to trial. If, just like we had a member of Fortenberry, he had the same ability, I removed him from committees, but he was found guilty, and I told him he needed to resign. That is my policies and principles on this, and I follow the same.
What he's saying is, I'm not going to do anything about it because, again, this is a member of my party. I didn't do anything. Hey, guys, if you guys are trying to come for me on this is my political career I'm trying to protect here. Forget that guy. Do what you're going to do, but don't let this anyway bleed towards me. So one circle of the wagons is kind of not really fully there. He's still trying to just protect his own ass. How about Steve Scalise? Because he also put himself in front of a podium and a microphone, which in these cases, I always say, ask the entire party how they feel about these folks when these things break. Well, someone's asking, but he wanted to talk about, ironically, a bill that would stop some fraud. Let's listen to what he had to say.
And then also, given all those indictments of Mr. Santos, a question for you and Chairwoman Stefanik is, should he resign?
So first of all, in regard to George Santos, he was already removed from all of his committees. There is a legal process. The charges just came out. We just saw some of them this morning. And so in America, there's a presumption of innocence, but they're serious charges. He's going to have to go through the legal process. But we're going to continue to work to root out fraud. And there's lots of it. And we're talking about tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud in many.
The question was whether or not you feel like you putting forward this, by the way, the bill is HR 1163, Protecting Taxpayers and Victims of Unemployment Fraud Act. That's the thing that he went up there to talk about, Steve Scalise. And he was asked, because of your fraudulent members of Congress on your side of the party, do you think that kind of pokes holes in your moral approach that you think you have with this? And apparently has nothing to do with him, except this one small detail, Adrian. I love this. One of the co-sponsors of this bill is one guy. Let me see if I can pronounce his name right. George Santos.
I think it's actually DeVolder. Yes, that sounds right. No, it's hysterical how he was co-sponsoring this bill, and on the same day that he is released on a $500,000 bond for it violating the bill. That would be it, or the terms of whatever the bill would be.
Maybe his moral standing, how he's fighting these witch hunt charges against him, only the fact that he's co-sponsoring a bill that might stop something he probably would have wanted to take advantage of. That's what we've learned. So you guys can keep trusting this party from top to bottom. You can just brush aside George Santos and say, well, that's not really the representation of the party. When someone asks, someone who represents the party, I think pretty prominently, and Steve Scalise, and he says, nothing, it's just us. I think maybe he's part of it too. At least if nothing else, trying to cover it up. Because again, it's about their own asses.